Everybody keeps saying Shane van Gisbergen is changing NASCAR, but what if NASCAR just quietly decided to change the rules instead? Because buried deep inside NASCAR's newest technical bulletin, while most fans were distracted by playoff drama and schedule changes, was a package tweak that just so happens to target the exact thing that makes SVG terrifying on road courses. And once fans started connecting the dots, the conspiracy theories exploded because this doesn't look random anymore. Not after Chicago, not after Watkins Glen, not after SVG walked into America from Supercars and started humiliating Cup veterans on tracks they were supposed to dominate. Now suddenly, the rules are changing, the aero package is changing, the tracks are changing, and some fans believe NASCAR is doing everything possible to slow one man down before he completely breaks the system. Let's talk about it. Back in November 2025, NASCAR quietly released technical updates for the 2026 season. Most people ignored it. Big mistake, because hidden inside that announcement were changes that could massively impact Shane van Gisbergen's biggest advantage. 5 tracks shifted into the short track and road course aero package, new spoiler setup, different diffuser configuration, mandatory A-post flaps at every circuit. At first glance, sounds harmless, but then engineers and insiders started asking a dangerous question: who does this actually hurt the most? And the answer might be SVG, because nobody in NASCAR drives like Shane van Gisbergen. Nobody attacks corner entry like him. Nobody rotates the car with that much yaw angle. Nobody leans on aggressive slip angle control the way he does. That's what makes him special. It's also exactly the kind of driving style these new aero changes could punish, especially the new A-post flap rule. Officially, it's a safety measure designed to stop cars from lifting during spins. Totally reasonable. But here's the problem. The more sideways a car gets, the more aero disruption those flaps create, and SVG drives more sideways than almost anyone in the field, which means NASCAR may have accidentally or intentionally created a rule that hurts the best road course driver in America more than anyone else. And fans absolutely noticed, because this didn't happen in a vacuum. SVG arrived in NASCAR and immediately embarrassed the establishment. Won Chicago on debut, started stacking road course wins, dominated Watkins Glen, made veteran Cup drivers look completely lost in wet conditions. Justin Marks literally called him a cheat code. That's not hype. That's fear. And now, people are asking if NASCAR got uncomfortable, because here's the sneaky part nobody talks about. NASCAR didn't ban SVG's advantage. They diluted it by spreading the road course style package onto more oval tracks. They gave American drivers more time learning the same aero setup on tracks. They already know Dover, Darlington Gateway, Nashville tracks, where guys like Larson, Byron, Bell, and Hamlin already have years of experience. Meanwhile, SVG still adapting to oval racing itself. So suddenly his special package becomes everybody's package. And that changes everything. But now comes the really controversial part. Because some fans believe this isn't just about NASCAR. They think it's about protecting the next American superstar, Connor Zilisch. Think about the timing. Zilisch is Trackhouse's rising golden boy, young American marketable fast on road courses. And if SVG's edge suddenly shrinks, guess who immediately looks stronger? Zilisch. That's why conspiracy theories are exploding online right now, because people are noticing how perfectly this all lines up. And then fans noticed something. Justin Marks, the guy who usually defends SVG publicly, has been almost completely silent about the rule changes. No big interviews, no angry statements, no public pushback, nothing. And in NASCAR, silence always makes people suspicious. Now, to be fair, none of this proves NASCAR is targeting SVG. There is zero hard evidence of some secret anti-SVG plot. A lot of these changes genuinely are safety-based, but perception matters. And when every new rule just happens to chip away at the exact strengths of the sport's most dominant outsider, people are going to talk, especially after Watkins Glen. Because despite all the changes, despite all the aero tweaks, SVG still went out there and destroyed the field. Pole position stage win, dominant pace. Another reminder that pure talent still matters more than politics. And honestly, that may be the scariest part for the rest of NASCAR. Because if Shane van Gisbergen is still this dangerous even after the rulebook shifts against him, then maybe the problem isn't SVG. Maybe the problem is the rest of the garage still hasn't figured out how to stop him. What if I told you Shane van Gisbergen and Trackhouse Racing just made a decision that could either save their season or completely destroy it? Because this weekend at Watkins Glen International, SVG is doing something he has never done before in NASCAR. 3 races, 3 different cars, 3 different teams, 1 weekend. And honestly, the more you think about it, the crazier this looks, because on paper, this should not be happening right now. Not with the pressure building, not with the playoffs getting closer, and definitely not with Trackhouse struggling the way they are, but somehow, somebody inside that organization looked at this weekend and said, yeah, let's triple it. And that's where this story gets really interesting, because this isn't just about racing more laps. This is a gamble, a massive one, and if it goes wrong, it could wreck one of the most important weekends of SVG's entire season. Let's break this down. SVG is entered in all 3 NASCAR National Series races at Watkins Glen Friday, Truck Series Saturday, Xfinity Series with JR Motorsports. Sunday, the Cup Series race with Trackhouse. 3 garages, 3 crews, 3 setups, 3 completely different race cars, and fans online are split right down the middle. Some people think this is genius, because let's be honest, Watkins Glen is basically SVG territory. Last time he raced a Cup car there, he didn't just win, he dominated one by more than 10 seconds. Made elite, NASCAR drivers look completely helpless. So naturally, people are saying, why not go for all 3? Or a disaster waiting to happen. And here's why. Triple duty sounds exciting, but it destroys drivers mentally and physically. The Truck Series car drives differently, the Xfinity car drives differently, and the next-gen Cup car completely different from both. Every braking point changes, every setup changes, every handling characteristic changes. So for SVG, a driver still learning American stock cars this weekend becomes a crash course in experience. That's the gamble. More laps, more reps, more adaptation, more learning. And honestly, that part makes sense, because SVG himself has admitted he's still learning these cars. The braking, the tire wear, the way the rear rotates, you can't fully learn that in a simulator. You learn it through raw seat time, and Watkins Glen gives him all of it. But now comes the dangerous part. Imagine this. Saturday afternoon, SVG just finishes an exhausting Xfinity race. His neck hurts. His hands are sore. His brain is overloaded. Media obligations everywhere. Crew meetings, setup discussions. And then Sunday morning arrives, where he has to defend his Cup victory against drivers like Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, drivers who absolutely circled Watkins Glen on their calendars after what SVG did to them last year. That's pressure, real pressure. And here's what makes this even riskier. Every single playoff point matters now. SVG is in a position where one road course win changes everything. A victory at Watkins Glen could instantly flip the narrative. Suddenly, he's not the struggling oval rookie anymore. He becomes a legitimate playoff threat. And with more road courses still ahead, that becomes terrifying for the rest of the field. But the downside, nobody at Trackhouse wants to talk about that publicly, because one mistake changes everything. One hard crash Friday night in the truck race, now your body is sore for Sunday. One bad incident Saturday in Xfinity, backup car. Starting in the rear weekend, compromised before the Cup race even begins. And that's not exaggeration, that's NASCAR. Stuff happens fast. Even veteran drivers like Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson have admitted triple-duty weekends are brutal. Not because of the racing, because of everything around it. The travel, the pressure, the meetings, the mental reset between completely different teams, that's what drains you. And the timing here is what really stands out. SVG openly admitted recently that Trackhouse is still grinding for answers. The cars haven't consistently had speed, but if it fails, started over in his mid-30s, entered a sport that doesn't hand out respect easily. And maybe this weekend, 3 races, 3 cars, 1 giant risk is exactly the kind of pressure he came here looking for. Or maybe it's the moment this gamble finally catches up to him. We're about to find out, and trust me, the entire NASCAR garage will be watching. NASCAR got Shane van Gisbergen completely wrong, because the same driver everyone labeled as an oval liability is quietly doing something that could change the entire playoff picture, and the scary part, Almost nobody is paying attention. For 2 years, the story never changed. Road course, superstar, oval struggle. Win at Chicago street course, then disappear in the standings. That was the narrative. And honestly, it made sense, because in NASCAR, specialists don't win championships, they win moments. Here was the real issue. The ceiling was never the problem, the floor was. Because when you're finishing 25th, 30th, 34th on ovals, you're not competing for titles, you're surviving. And most people believed that wasn't going to change anytime soon. But now, something is different, and it's not loud. No big headlines, no viral moments, just results. Quiet, consistent results. Look at this. Atlanta, 6th, Phoenix, 11th. Darlington, 14th, Martinsville, 11th. 4 completely different tracks. 4 solid finishes. That's not luck. That's not a fluke. That's a pattern. And here's where it gets real. SVG is sitting 14th in points, ahead of his own teammate, Ross Chastain, ahead of drivers who've spent their entire careers on ovals, and he hasn't even won a road course race yet this season. Let that sink in. Now, let's talk about Atlanta, because the finish doesn't tell the story. At Echo Park Speedway, he starts 28th, car is loose, barely controllable, then chaos hits first contact ahead, spins into the grass, second his own mistake, loses grip again, twice, 2 moments that should have ended his race. Last year. That's a 25th place finish. Easy, but not this time, he recovers. Stays calm, fights back, finishes 6th, and here's the craziest part. He wasn't happy. He said he lost positions in the final corner. He expected more. That's the shift nobody's talking about. His expectations have changed. This isn't a driver hoping to survive anymore. This is a driver expecting to compete. And that changes everything. But the real story? Stage points last year, he got almost none. This year, he's quietly collecting them every race. Stage 1, Stage 2, top 10, top 15, banking points. That's how championships are built. Now look